gotta hit my mic. Pac-Man and Sonic are finally together. I am freaking excited, but we're gonna try to take it slow. Either way, let's talk about the intro. Okay, so why is he just ominously looking over where Pac-Man lives? And then Sonic's like, man, I came at a really bad time. Oh well, your game, your problem. Yeah! And then Pac-Man comes over like,
well, my birthday was 6 months ago, but better late than never.
He doesn't even say hi to Pac-Man, just kind of whizzes by. He just runs back to the room and it's like, mission complete. First, I want to mention that this video is only about the Sonic crossover DLC. I will not be covering the base game, nor will I talk about any spoilers for that. This is all self-contained. Personally, I think Pac-Man and Sonic have a lot in common. Both have notable classic and modern designs that heavily affect the main gameplay. Both had their controversial dark eras, and both are known for having some of the most talented fans keeping the fandom alive. Even the companies themselves have made this evident over the years when Pac-Man got to be playable via Sonic Dash, and Sonic was playable via the Pac-Man mobile game. We got some merch collabs, plenty of promo videos with them being buddy-buddy, and now that finally brings us to today. So, what does the Sonic collab DLC contain? Well, from the outset, you get 2 costumes, 20 figurines to display, and 3 new stages, but in heavy quotes. I think it's also worth noting that the DLC on its own will set you back about $11. Now, on Sonic's side, we get Pac-Man as a playable character in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, complete with a unique car, track, and skins. However, what really piqued my interest was Sonic coming to Pac-Man's world. I mean, what kind of collab could we possibly get? Pac-Man running around in Sonic's world has a ton of possibilities, and honestly, I can't wait to see what Sega and Bamco cooked up with this one. And now, after playing the DLC in full, I really wanted to make a video covering my thoughts and overanalyzing everything that's to offer. Some good, some bad, and quite a few questions. Alright, so going back to the intro, it was fun, but left me wanting a little bit more? I mean, I do hate to sound entitled, but over the years we've seen Pac-Man and Sonic celebrate and run side by side in promo videos, artwork, and all sorts of media, that I feel a more personal interaction could have fit the situation. Now, I'm no director, but if I was in charge, I'd make a few little tweaks. Yo, Pac-Man, what's up? Yup! Hey, dab me up, bro. You're the real one. I'll see you later. Anyway, after that, Pac-Man gains access to the Sonic outfit, the brand new Pac Sonic arcade machine, and the greatest gift of all, the Sonic figure. What a narcissist. Behold, Pac-Man, a statue of me. Bask in its glory.
Oh, how thoughtful.
Some cool details about this outfit I'd like to mention is that the rev roll is now replaced with the spin dash sound, and you get a blue trail that follows you around. Also, when you do a perfect butt bounce, you get this sorta tornado wind-like swirl around him that thematically fits Sonic's design. Now, while I do wish there was an alt where you could only wear Sonic shoes and didn't need the outfit, I will say this is super charming because of the details, the sound effects, and overall Pac-Man just looks sick in Sonic's fit. Wait, does this just imply that Sonic carries around outfits of himself? Now, with access to the arcade, we're able to enter the world of Sonic. Welcome to South Pac Island. Ugh.
Hey, are you good?
No. A reimagining of South Island, but now in the shape of Pac-Man. That's a pretty nice touch. Alright, so let's begin with Act 1, rolling around on the island. Wait, okay, I gotta do this and then I gotta leave. Rolling around on the island. Oh my goodness. It's just generations! So, I'm sorry for laughing, but this is literally Green Hill Zone from Sonic Generations. And oh boy, those assets were totally ripped from Gens 2, oh my god. Sometimes I like to look at Sonic Team and think, wow, 65-year-old game company reuses assets the old-fashioned way. I know it seems like I'm dogging on Sonic, but honestly, reuse assets are not a problem for me. As long as everything is creatively used, I can pretty much forgive it. Remember, as a Sonic fan, my top priority is to maintain the agenda, and I will be looking for both the good and the bad here. Oh shoot, that looks pretty tasty. What was I talking about again? Now, right off the bat, we get thrust into a linear boost segment that accurately shows off what most of Sonic's boost gameplay is like, and it helps add a bit of thrill into the mix. Sonic's a fast guy, and emulating in World 2 makes sense. However, the cartoony punch sounds crack me up when you defeat any badniks. I feel like a metallic clang sound would fit, but considering this is all built in the World 2 limitations, I'll let it slide. Now, after the ramp, Bro hits the iconic Sonic Adventure pose, and you're thrust into one of the first semi-open areas of the game. Now, this is where I knew the DLC was gonna be something special. For one thing, I really enjoy how they changed Pac-Man's hit points to be more in line with Sonic's. He takes one hit to die, but as long as you have rings, you're always safe. After encountering a few small fry badniks, you get this brief opportunity where you get to fly high above the stage. Now, this is where I gotta give them props for the level design. You can clearly see a balloon crate in the air with a platform above it, but you'll most likely miss it on your first playthrough and take the bottom path, which leads to a section with the power pellet. By the way, collecting a power pellet while in the Sonic outfit will transform you into Super Sonic Pac-Man. I don't know how this affects power scaling, and I'm very scared, so we're not going to acknowledge this anymore. Now, if you look closely though, you'll notice all the ghosts are dressed as the egg robos from Sonic 3 and rocking their iconic laser guns too. Honestly, it's the details like this that I really like. But let's rewind. If you do manage to take the top path, you're treated to a nice little shortcut that skips a decent chunk of the obstacles, and not even 5 seconds later is another cool branching path. Your ultimate goal in this section is to press the switch that lowers the bridge. And it's little platforming segments like this that emphasizes the fun of Pac-Man's platforming with Sonic's speed-focused stages. On the left is a fairly straightforward path which leads you up to the helipads. It's longer, but a safer path. And if you're feeling confident in your platforming skills, the path on the right leads to a small chain of enemies you can bounce off of to reach another top path. To make it even better, there's even a slightly hidden path off to the right, which leads you directly up there. I feel like this perfectly encapsulates what a classic Sonic 3D game could be like. Not in the same vein of 3D Blast, but maybe something akin to Sonic Jam. Once the bridge is lowered, you enter the next speed segment. Simple but pretty nice, testing your control and reaction speed. Take the high path, jump at the right time, and overall, I'm really enjoying the flow of this level. However, it's at this point the funniest thing happens. I don't know if Sonic is cursed or if it was a creative decision, but Pac-Man is forced into a 2D segment.
Oh, what is this wizardry? Why can't I move in the Z-axis? Oh, I don't know how he does it.
Now, that's not a bad thing, but I do find it funny how every single Pac-Man World game has no forced 2D segments. Now, if this was a normal boring level, I would end it there, but it's nice to see that they at least took a note from classic Sonic's design and present you with yet again a top and bottom path. Do some well-timed butt bounces off the Buzz Bombers and you'll be met with a faster path. If you take the bottom path, you'll get that iconic S-tube from Green Hill, which launches you up into a ton of rings. Honestly, all these little choices seem really simple to a more advanced player, but what we're getting is the power of choice, and a little goes a long way into what makes a Sonic stage feel like, well, a Sonic stage. Now, after the loops and the giant ramp, it's probably hands down my favorite section of this level. You launch through a loop which is not only a nice visual spectacle, but if we slow it down, you get a wide view of what's ahead. The bottom path is full of obstacles and basic platforming where you have to time your jumps with the dash rings and avoid some pits. It's a basic yet somewhat challenging sequence that I enjoy, especially if you're going for all the collectibles. However, if we rewind back to the start of that segment, you can see the devs set up an extra special path for skilled players that require a move that is never asked of you for the entire base game. You see, in order to take the top path here, you have to get up on this red balloon, then this yellow one. But you can't just do a regular butt bounce, otherwise you'll come up too short. It has to be the perfect variant that gives you extra height when timed just right. Incredible! Now, doing this saves a ton of time, and I have to give props to the devs for having a shortcut like this that requires good platforming, skill, and timing, the things Sonic is known for. Now, we're finally at the last section of the act and greeted once again with some more options. If you take the normal path straight and to the left, it's pretty straightforward. The only real hazard is a bunch of falling platforms and the Buzz Bombers, but it does make for a mild thrill to make your way to the top. But basic platforming is boring, so what else is here? Well, glancing at the right, if you want to put your platforming skill to the test, there are 2 Buzz Bombers you can bounce off of, leading to a path that skips a significant chunk of the falling platforms. However, my final bit of praise in this act has to go to this well thought out and very tight shortcut on the left. You have to do 2 super bounces in a row, one past the Buzz Bomber and another off a falling platform that you'll most likely only get 1 chance to nail. I missed this trick so many times, but when you do nail it, you feel like an absolute pro, and the thrill feels really good. After that, it's just a mad dash at the end, and the act is over. So what do I think of Act 1 as a whole? Personally, this feels right at home with what could potentially be the basis for a classic Sonic game in 3D, albeit if Pac-Man was a little bit faster. While the reuse of Generations assets are a little weird, I can forgive it since, let's be real, this is a fairly simple collab. That aside, I really like the flow of this level. I'm sure you'll hear lots of YouTubers bring up flow in Sonic games, and I like to believe Pac-Man is the originator of that. Non-stop action and the ability to overcome obstacles with your quick wits and skills is essential to what makes Pac-Man a fun game. And as Pac-Man has gotten faster over the years, I feel the Sonic Pac-Man connection is really strong. Now, if there's one thing I almost forgot to mention, it's the addition of the red star rings, which replace the fruits in this game so far. Some of them are mostly relegated to the top or faster paths, but some of them require a little bit of searching. And one final thing I almost forgot to mention was the addition of the time trials. Now, this kind of flips the level design on its head completely. If you're playing this level casually, you're just kind of exploring and running through having fun. However, when you're going for time trials and trying to get gold, I am not kidding you, the developers must have been on some sort of crack because it is insanely hard to get the gold for this stage. Not only do you have to practically break every box and crate, you have to find the most optimal way to get through the level, which makes sense for a Sonic game. So you'll end up taking little routes that you never thought you would take initially. This also requires the use of all the tricks earlier I was talking about, requiring the use of all the top paths, and even going back for a few boxes, just to ensure you have enough timers to lower your overall time. Overall, I'd have to give Green Hill Act 1 a 9 out of 10 in terms of quality and presentation. It sets out to be a well-designed level with plenty of speed sections, platforming challenges, and fun little shortcuts to improve your overall time. Next up is Act 2, and right from the get-go, you're gonna be hit with the best, and only, new remix in the game. It's a Sonic-fied version of the Pac-Man World 2 theme, which in my opinion should have been used in Act 1, but I'll forgive it because of how good it is. This level does not hold back on the shortcuts, and little skips, because not even 5 seconds in, you're met with a ring to skip the rail segment if you can time your jumps well enough. What?
Dude, how do you live like this?
Wow, this is a Sonic game. Then immediately at the checkpoint, you're greeted with options. You can play it safe and go for the bottom path on the right side, or perform a perfect bounce and hit the dash ring to access the top path. Then, right after that is even more choices. Take the easy main path forward or go off the beaten path and bounce up to the spring, which leads yet to another shortcut. Sure, the paths shortly merge, but when going for the time trials, a few seconds really does add up. And if you want to know why I died here, I forgot I was playing Pac-Man for a second and attempted to do the air dash. If you play modern Sonic, you'll understand my pain. The next section is a bit linear with the platforms and boost segments, but it's a nice break from all the platforming. I do think to spice it up though, they could have added a few more obstacles. After the brief platforming segment, we get back to the rails, and this is where I have to admit, while I love rail grinding, it can become a bit too easy, so I'm thankful plenty of spikes were added to shake up things. Now, much like the beginning of the level, there's another ring to skip the rails, but if you really want to show off, you can jump the rails Adventure 2 style. If you have a good enough timing, you can stick the landing. Now, this may seem like a minor thing to get excited about, but most Sonic games these days rarely let you jump off rails for fun skips like this, with the exception of Frontiers. Sometimes you're just locked into it, and seeing this kind of freedom is really refreshing. At the next checkpoint, we get launched off a ramp leading to some platforming and end up taking an extremely easy shortcut given to you for free as long as you're on the right side. It's at this point I'd have to say the stage is starting to feel a little too linear, but after the ramp, there is a cool skip you can do off a Buzz Bomber should you time time your bounce again the right way. Then we get to probably my least favorite part of the level. You have to stand and slowly wait for the platforms to move through a sea of floating spikes. Part of this can be remedied by the fact that you can physically jump on the poles of the spikes as a safety measure, or shave off a few extra seconds. But I have to be honest, this section felt the most uninspired and sadly most modern Sonic in a way. Once you're past that is a fairly linear rail grind to the finish, with some obstacles. But what helped redeem this level was the ability to jump off the rail early and skip a chunk with a well-timed jump. Again, it's the little freedoms like this that make a huge impact. After that is a few rail hops, and then that's the end of Act 2. Overall, Act 2 had higher highs and lower lows when it came to level design and platforming. It started off really strong, giving the player tons of options, but then slowly trickled down into a fairly linear level and tons of platform spam. Yes, Act 1 had a lot of floating platforms too, but I feel it did a better job of making it blend in with the environment, considering you could actually spring to different chunks of land in the background. This one kinda gives me Sonic Frontiers vibes, and that's not an insult. While the level is put together fine, it's just a little too bland. The level is fun, but it's clear that not a lot of time went into it with like the first act, and that's a bit of a shame. Not a bad stage, but this one's gonna be a 6 out of 10 for my taste. And for those of you ruined by online scoring systems, remember my word is not law. It's just a personal preference. If 1 means terrible and 10 means perfect, then 5 means average. And despite its flaws, I would still consider this stage slightly above average. So now it's time for the boss fight, and man, I cannot lie, this was actually really challenging, but a masterclass in good boss design with a few flaws. Phase 1 is Eggman and the Egg Wrecker, and what's considered a laughingstock for Sonic by now is actually a formidable obstacle when you can't move as fast as him. Right off the bat, you're gonna notice how you're suspended on a single platform while Eggman attacks you. Now, Eggman has 1 of 4 attacks, and learning these will be the key to staying alive. The most basic and annoying attack is him charging up a swing from overhead and slamming it into the ground. After he does it twice, he gets stuck and you're free to attack him. If you're fast with it, you can get 3 attacks in, which opens up the safety glass, and you can break his spine with a good butt bounce, taking out 1 chunk of health. This may sound tedious, so thankfully during his other attacks, there are plenty of ways to get some quick hits in, but I'll bring up why this is the worst attack later. The next will be him swinging it in a circle, and the best part is that if you do a super butt bounce, you can flip kick into it for some extra damage. This attack is probably the easiest to avoid and a godsend when looking for easy hits. The third attack is him dragging the wrecking ball across the arena, which is simple to avoid, but since the camera locks onto the boss's movement, your 3D movement might get mixed up and your jump to the left or right might curve, letting you take damage. Again, if you can time a perfect butt bounce, you can also sneak in another hit in there. The fourth attack is a barrage of bombs falling from the sky, which is quite simple to avoid, but I do think the change in perspective is pretty cool. Now, after you do a chunk of damage, Eggman will follow up by removing a chunk of the stage, which is a simple but effective way to increase the difficulty. However, this forces me to bring up the most annoying thing his first attack does. Once he's under half health, he'll swing the wrecker 3 times instead of 2 before it gets stuck. You may think, well, it's no big deal, just run from it. But that's the tricky part, because his attack locks onto you with such insane precision that you'd swear he was cheating. The best way to avoid it is to simply rev roll out of the way. However, while that's easy to do in the start, by the time you're down to the last chunk of platform and see Eggman charging up another attack, there is practically no room to safely rev roll, or you risk flying off the edge like I did a dozen times. It's not the worst thing ever, but I do think it's a bit of an overkill for the first phase. Now, after you give Eggman a little brain trauma, you drop down and give chase to him in a speed section. So, I had no idea this was phase 2 of the fight, but it was quite refreshing to have a change of pace. I really like chase down bosses. And this time, Eggman is attacking you Unleash style, either throwing crap in front of you, or giving chase from behind. This phase is really funny because I'm so used to Sonic having the quick step in his games to move from side to side that I'm actually enjoying the challenge of having to position myself safely based on where he's throwing bombs instead of doing the Subway Surfers type gameplay where you can quickly switch from lane to lane. No offense to modern Sonic, but I do like the additional input that makes this kind of platforming, well, a challenge. Oh, and the bombs. Occasionally he'll throw out a green one which can be hit back, and if your spacing and timing is on point, you can actually get 2 solid hits in per cycle. Sometimes he'll saw the ground right next to you or destroy chunks of ground ahead of you, making for a pretty good challenge. It's nothing earth-shattering for Sonic fans, but if you're being introduced to Sonic via Repac 2, I'd assume this has to be a pretty cool boss fight. After dealing the second to last blow, Pac-Man pulls a Knuckles and grabs onto the Eggmobile. Or you could say this is a World 3 reference. Either way, taking you into Phase 3, and that's the Death Egg Robot. Bro, you do not need to be doing all this for a middle-aged man. This guy has a family. This thing has quite a few attacks, and it's certainly no pushover. From punching the platforms, sweeping you off with lasers, jumping onto chunks of the arena, and a full-on arm sweep, I have to admit I died more often to this boss than I'd like to admit. Funny thing though, while this may seem hard at first, it's actually deceptively simple once you learn to bait the arm out and then give it a few good kicks. Once the Death Egg is stunned, you can easily run up to the arm and then give the head a good butt bounce. Rinse and repeat 4 times, and that wraps up the Death Egg Robot. I still think Phase 1 is the hardest and 3 is the easiest, since you get a partial safety net at the bottom of the map if you fall. Also, I don't think you get attacked down there. If you do try to approach him though, he does stomp his feet to knock you back. It's also at this point where I wish they were able to use more than one boss theme in this DLC instead of reusing the same Death Egg Robot or its pinch mode. It would have been cool to hear a remix of the boss theme from Sonic 1, and then it transitioned from Sonic 2 to maybe Sonic 3, or hey, maybe some of the boss themes from Unleashed. Maybe I'm asking for too much, but a man can dream. Now after you finally beat the Death Egg, you're treated to a cutscene where Sonic comes in at the last second, saves Pac-Man, and they both work together to deal the final blow to the Death Egg Robot. Overall, it's pretty short and sweet, but I really love the interaction seeing both my heroes work together, and in the end, I just love the collab.
Jeez, where were you? That claw almost squashed me in the yellow paste.
Alright, listen up, Piehead. This is all the money Sega could afford to let me even be in here, so why don't you get out of here before the budget runs out? Overall, the boss fight with Eggman was very well done and puts a lot of other games like Mario and Sonic to shame. I'm not saying this is the best boss in all of gaming, but when it comes down to the 2D and 3D platform genre, there was a lot to love here. For example, in a lot of games, it's pretty common for a boss to expose its weak spot, and once you get hit, they fly away or have a ton of iframes. This means you can't do additional damage or follow up. So no matter what your skill level is, the fight feels pretty cut and dry as you wait for the one and only opening to attack. Pac-Man, on the other hand, has full access to attack bosses, I'd say a good 90% of the time. Sure, you can go the simple way and wait for an opening, or you could just bust it down with the exaggerated swagger of a middle-aged man and absolutely wallop Eggman in passing. It's all about risk versus reward, and I live for this kind of stuff. The second phase was a bit simpler, but I do feel the chase down boss serves as a good representation for modern Sonic's boss design, similar to the Egg Beetle. Nothing too noteworthy, but the change of pace makes for a good time. Phase 3 is somehow better than Sonic Generation's own boss, due to the fact you're not locked to a 2D plane. You can directly attack the Death Egg Robot, and it actually feels fitting of a final boss. Again, no idea why Eggman is beefing with Pac-Man, but it's always cool to see heroes of another game fight villains of another game. Now that raises the question, how would Sonic handle retrieving the golden fruit from Spooky?
Boy, was that Eggman a hassle. I wonder how Sonic's doing against Spooky.
During the editing of this video, I finally beat Pac-Man World 2 Repac, and without spoilers, I can say that the Sonic DLC's difficulty is on par with the rest of the game. So I would recommend you don't play this until actually beating the base game first. So my final verdict? The Sonic Collaboration DLC is good. It does a good job of fusing two gameplay styles together and showing off what modern Sonic is like for better or worse. There are creative shortcuts and skips that make the player feel rewarded for experimenting, and the final boss is a real test of skill. I wish I could blab on and on about how well Sonic and Pac-Man mesh together, but I gotta stop somewhere. So thank you all for watching, and remember, stay foxy, people. Wow, okay, Taeyeon Post here. I just want to say thank you very much for watching. Big thanks to Miles for her Pac-Man model and letting me in her private world to record footage for the little skits we did. It really helped a lot add to this video. As always, I want to give a gigantic thank you to all my Ko-fi and Patreon supporters. They're the ones that keep me going. So if you want to help me out, I got a bunch of uncut footage you can watch of me and Moxxie just kind of mucking around. Or if you want to see what it took to even get these little parts to work. And if you're still here at the end, what you doing here? Ain't much going on. Get out of here.
Boy, it's been a great year for the both of us.
Sure has been. you being in my game and me being in yours with the crossover, it's been a pretty big year for the both of us, I'd say.
Oh yeah, and just to think, Repac 3 could be on the horizon. Oh, that reminds me. When are your adventure games getting remade?
Well, sooner than you think. It's just gonna take a minute, but, how's Miss Pac-Man doing?
Oh, yeah, forget I asked. Let's, Hey, waiter, 3 more, please.